Today's podcast is brought to you by Gaston Luger, a Swedish-designed lifestyle backpack. Go to www.gastonluger.com, use promo code DNC15 for 15% off your total purchase as well as free shipping. That's www.gastonluger.com, www.gastonluger.com. Peace.
Hi, I'm Jaratt Raj. I'm a strength and conditioning coach from Strength Avenue, and you're listening to Do Not Clique.
So this is probably my second meeting with you.
Yes, sir.
The moment we meet today, we dove straight into the podcast.
Straight away, I wanted to save everything for the podcast.
Yeah, we didn't really have much of a formal introduction with each other, but that's the way it should be, I feel. Okay, so your full name is Jaratt Raj?
Yes, sir. Jaratt Raj.
Okay, and you're a strength and conditioning coach.
Yep. Working at Strength Avenue.
Okay, so what is it that sets you apart from any other strengths and conditioning coach in Singapore?
Well, I focus a lot of my work on mobility, movement, and durability. Because I believe that for my athletes, right, if they are to stay injury-free and fully mobile throughout all of their ranges, they'll be able to get stronger, faster, better over a longer period of time as opposed to someone who gets injured often. Like, they may have a lot of potential, but if they keep getting injured, they're going to take a lot of time out of training, and over the long run, it's not as good as someone who works on their durability throughout,
Okay, and also you are the only mace trainer in Singapore?
Pretty much. I don't think I've seen anyone else using the mace in the fitness circle in Singapore. I think I'm the only one. Unless someone else out there, let me know. Holler.
Okay, yeah. The workout is not necessarily new per se. It's probably been around for
centuries.
But in a sense, you picked it up from a course.
I didn't actually pick it up from a course. I was really, really interested in mace training for the longest time. Like maybe since I was in secondary school, I was already reading about it, about the wrestlers in India who used to use the mace in the past for their shoulder strength and whatnot. And just happened to be like, for some happenstance, I met a mace trainer who was trained in America, who was trained under the On-It system. And he happened to share with me his insights on mace training. And he actually gave me my first steel mace. And from then on, it just grew. It snowballed. I did more research. I learned about the traditional swinging techniques. I learned about the history of the mace. And here is where I am right now, using the mace.
It is exactly as it sounds like. You are literally using a mace, which is like a weapon that is used to pummel someone hit into the shoulders.
Pretty much, right? Pretty much. I mean, the mace, initially it was built like as a weapon of warfare, just to smash people in the head, smash through armor, and used a lot in like medieval Europe, medieval India. Even the Persians, they used to use the mace. In fact, right, if I'm not wrong, the mace was the first weapon ever created to be used against other humans that was not used specifically for hunting. So other weapons like the adel, the spear, it was used for hunting, and then when they fought humans, they used those for humans as well. But the mace just for humans, weapon of war.
Ooh, savage stuff. Alright, so we are at podcast number 21. So far, I've gotten the hang of doing this podcast. Everyone can relate to fitness, and aside from talking to celebrities, learning their crafts, I think talking to a strength and conditioning coach, it's also beneficial for a lot of people.
It's quite applicable to the general population, right?
Yep,
Because a lot of people
everybody
can
trains as well.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so let's start from the top. Get a bit about your background. How do you get into the fitness industry?
Basically, in the army, I signed on. So I was a regular in the armed forces. I was serving in the 1st Commando Battalion, and I had to go through a lot of rigorous training. In that process, right, I had a lot of injuries. So mainly shoulder injuries that I sustained earlier in my youth when I was boxing at Farrer Park Boxing Club.
Oh, okay, wait, you box as well?
Way back, like in my youth.
With
so
Coach Kadir?
No, not Coach Kadir. Coach Daven, actually.
Okay, alright.
Yep, and I screwed up my shoulders really, really bad back then, and I had no understanding of it. And so when I was in the army, it got worse and worse. The injuries compounded. I was in the commando battalion, but trust me, I could barely climb a rope when I was loaded with my battle combat fatigues,
When you say screw your shoulder, did you dislocate your shoulder?
Multiple times. I lost count. Like I dislocated them like probably 10 times on each side, both shoulders.
I can relate because I have poor shoulders as well. I dislocated both of my shoulders. And when I do boxing, when I spar,
it's horrible. It's scary, right?
Yeah, it pops out. It comes to the point where you don't want it to be too loose.
Right.
You are training so much, and to me your arms are without your arms, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, man.
And to me, it scares me to the point that I got loose hands now, and all that
You even have to like change your fighting style to protect your
as
weakened
well.
shoulder.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. I fight like I'm trapped in a box,
Yeah.
just to make sure that I don't swing my hands too wildly.
Yep.
Sorry to cut you off. Get back there. Sorry.
No worries. So,
Yep.
like I was saying, when I was faced with this predicament, there was only two choices. Either I quit and like I drop out and I can't go on with the rest of my military career, or I just find ways whereby I can rehabilitate my shoulders. So the first thing that I looked at was actually yoga. Yoga really helped me a lot in the fact that it helped me strengthen my shoulders using bodyweight movements. So at that point in time, I had practiced yoga in my youth, but then I got back into it later on when I was in the army. I was practicing it for about 3-4 years when I was in the army. And then, after which I stumbled upon club bell training, which I was already interested in my youth, but I had never really partaken in it. I never really bought the equipment. I just did a lot of reading and research as to the traditional club bell and mace bell swinging exercises done in the past. So now
it's very interesting to me that when you hurt your shoulder, you are still getting into active sports rather than you halt exercising completely. You are still trying to find ways to rehabilitate your shoulders.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what you have to do. There was two paths in front of me. So either I just quit everything and I drop out of the army, take my down pass, or just find a way around it. So I could have gone for an operation, but really that's going to take me months out of the service, and I would have lost a lot of my range. And it doesn't mean that's going to help. That the labrum still can tear. There still can be issues in the shoulder, So I wanted to find a holistic way whereby I could strengthen and then rehabilitate it. So that's when the clubs and the mace came into play. So I was looking into it and I found out that other than the traditional swinging techniques, there was this new dude in the scene. His name is Scott Sonnen. He came up with this club bell training protocol called TechFit. Initially, it was the circular strength training system, after which it evolved into TechFit. And from there, I learned about the club bell and the club bell swinging techniques. I bought myself a couple of club bells, started play around with it. And eventually, once I left the army and once I left the regular services, then I met my on-it coach friend, his name is Rich Thurman, Coach Rich Thurman. You can go check him out on Instagram, Coach RT. Yo, holla, bro. And so anyways,
shout out to Rich Thurman.
Yo, Rich. Anyways, I got myself in the mace game, started swinging the mace, and trust me, my shoulders have never felt better. True that, at some point of time, since you are already injured, right, you really, really have to take extra precautions. Keep on your rehab and keep protecting that shoulder, because no matter what, since you have the injury, it's always going to be weakened. It's not going to be perfect. But you can take measures and steps to make it as good as it can be and do the things that you love.
There was a point of time after I dislocated my shoulder, I tried doing pull-ups. And midway in the pull-up, my shoulder got dislocated.
Yeah, I know the pain. I know the pain.
It was like the phobia to do another pull-up. But if I go to a pull-up bar, I'm pretty sure I can do a couple of pull-ups. But
just the phobia,
is it
right?
worth? No, but is it worth getting my shoulder dislocated again? But it's very good to know that surgery is not the only option.
There's hope, bro. There's hope. You have to be very activity specific. For example, if you're a BJJ guy, you know the ranges that you're going to be in BJJ. You're always in very compromised positions. There's tons of shoulder locks, the Kimura. So for these situations, right, you got to know what ranges your shoulder is going to be in. There's going to be a lot of internal rotation. So you got to strengthen your shoulder in those specific ranges. And the clubs and mace really helps with that.
Okay, let's talk a bit about strength and conditioning. Now, I want to point out that there's no right or wrong answers. This is basically on your own perspective and your experience, and if other people listening, have their own understanding, or if they disagree, just keep an open mind, because not everything works for everyone. For you doing strength and conditioning for a very long time, you know what works for you and you know what works for other people. So, based on your experience, I've been doing a lot of weights, and my focus is mainly on strength.
You look like a strong dude, man. You look like you can squat more than 100, right?
Thank you so much. Hopefully I'm reaching about twice my weight.
Oh
squats.
yeah, that's good. That's good, bro. You're
But
doing something right.
Yeah, but still working on form and all that. Yeah, so different people have different goals when it comes to fitness. Some people are going for strength. Some people are working for aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are working for stamina or overall functionality. You do train a bunch of notable athletes in Singapore, right?
Yes.
And most notable is probably Tiffany Teo.
Oh yes, yeah, I do work
one
with
FC
Tiffany
fighter.
Teo quite a bit. Yep.
Yeah. So how did your relationship with Tiffany came about?
Tiffany, she was working at the gym at a point of time, and after which my head coach Andin talked to the head coach of that gym and asked them if they had any athletes who they would like us to help with on the strength and conditioning side. So Tiffany came over, and then we looked through her fight style and look at predominantly what aspects, what attributes in her physicality that she can improve on considering her fight style. You know, like some athletes, they are very endurance based, some athletes are more explosive, some athletes, you know, they are even in BJJ, right? There are athletes who are who just rely on their flexibility and mobility to get the win. So we look at these athletes and look at their attributes that they use for their game and specifically work on those attributes, right? Using periodization. So instead of just mindlessly getting them to sweat it out or just work strength every single time, we have blocks of training. So at this point in time, we are going to work strength and then maintain your mobility. And then the next period, we're going to work on explosiveness. And then we're going to maintain whatever range we gain during the last block and so on and so forth. So normally we work on 4-week blocks of each training block, right? And then we work on a specific attribute or certain attributes and all the way until their fight camp.
So basically, you organize a training regimen across a period of time for your athletes.
Yes, sir.
How religiously does someone have to stick to the regimen that you put in? Because for me, sometimes I set myself a regimen as well. But at the end of the day, I feel like I have to listen to my body more. Sometimes I set unrealistic goals for myself when I plan out my schedule, but when I feel like this particular day I cannot afford to do this set of exercise, I listen to my body, because looking at the bigger picture, it's probably wiser to know what your body is capable of.
Exactly. You're completely right there, like especially when you're working with professional athletes, you don't want to overtrain them, you don't want them to get injured during their sport specific training as well. So for these kind of things, you have to have a good repertoire, no matter how well your programming, the planning of the programming may be, right? On that day itself, they may just have an injury, they may be feeling a bit off. So you got to listen to them and then tweak your programming just to fit that, fit how they're feeling at that point of time.
Okay, so essentially your training style will suit what kind of athletes? Is it mainly fighters or
I work with a lot,
Olympians?
I work with a lot of people. Like I've recently started working with like a couple of junior golfers, but right now I think like most of my guys are fighters. Actually, grapplers are specifically BJJ guys. For BJJ, right, there's so much of drawback from my specialties, which would be mobility, durability, the mace bell and the club bell, and then like basic strength training, which I've learned from my head coach like Andin and stuff, with him mentoring me. So yeah, I like to work with BJJ guys, and I seem to have a lot of BJJ guys around me as well.
It's very interesting that you pick a cat, to represent your Instagram handle, because it makes sense. Cats are agile.
Catchy, right?
Catchy, yeah, and it paints the idea in your head already.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give some tips about maybe perhaps losing weight?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so there are hundreds of different ways for different people to lose weight, and it works 99% of the time. I say 99% because what, like I said, doesn't work for everyone.
Yep.
Everybody's body works differently. I read somewhere that there was this bodybuilder Olympian who ate only pineapples when he was cutting weight. And pineapple is full of sugar and all that.
Full of sugar.
Yeah, but it works for him.
Yeah,
but what works for him wouldn't have worked for anyone else.
Yeah.
People go by textbook. Oh, don't take carbs, just eat protein or whatever. There's more than one way. Probably there are even some that people haven't explored yet. What would your advice be for fat loss specifically? Because for me, that is something that I'm very interested in. I'm not interested in losing weight. To me, weight is important.
You want to stay strong, right?
I want to stay strong, and I want to keep up my strength. But the one thing that I want to lose is fats.
Yep.
Also, there's a misconception between losing weight and losing fats.
Yep.
They think it's the same thing. It's not. Your weight is also made up of water, which is essential for your body. And there's glycogen in your body, and there's fats. Aesthetically, if you want to look pleasing, the one thing you want to lose is fats, right?
There's a lot of things we can talk about over here, right? One of it being the diet element of it, and the other one being the training element of it.
Yep.
So both of it are equally as important. There's a lot of diets right now that all of them work, but some of them are more efficient than others, and some of them require more effort than others as well. So there's this one that I've done a lot of research on, and I've actually experimented on with myself. It's the ketogenic diet. It's actually a high fat, medium protein and no carbohydrate diet, right? So less than 100 mg of carbs every day, which is extremely little. So the amount of vegetables that you have, you even have to control that just because vegetables has carbohydrate. But you can go crazy with the fats though. You can have bacon all day. You can have like avocados all day. You can have all those crazy shit all day.
Butter?
Oh, butter, you can drink it by the gallon, bro. Like,
I thought butter, okay, the reason I stay away from butter because they have trans fat.
oh, actually, it depends on the butter. So there's like different kinds of butter, right? Like margarine, if I'm not wrong, has like a lot of trans fats. Like if you get like really high grade, high fat butter, is not supposed to have less trans fats. Trans fats like this unhealthy fat that's degenerated from its original.
Essentially, there are good fats and there are bad fats, and the fats that you want to stay away from is trans fat.
Yep.
Getting into the ketogenic diet that you are talking about, can you give a list of food that you would recommend? Some of the best choices, you know.
Okay, so like for the ketogenic diet, you can have lots of high fat nuts. You can have avocados. You can have like healthy fats in the form of animal fat, like salmon, beef, pork.
Salmon skin is alright, right?
It's alright, dude. It's alright.
It's like one of the best part of the salmon, you know.
Yes. And there's this misconception whereby animal fats is bad for you. Sure, like animal fats that has gone through the factory farming process and the animals are being fed a lot of grain. It normally has a less percentage of healthy fats to unhealthy fats is very skewed. So there's a lot of unhealthy fats in these animals. However, if you do have good grade meat, I would say go for that. If you have like kampong raised eggs, the yolk over there is going to be good for you, man. It's not going to be bad for you. It's going to be packed full of omega-3s and whatnot. Okay, the ketogenic diet, the pros is that, like you start to adapt your body to burning fat as opposed to burning glycogen. So when you are not eating for a period, it's going to go straight to your fat reserves and burn it right off. However, the cons is it's going to be really, really hard to upkeep. And the second thing is, over a long period of time, it's going to put quite a bit of stress on your body. So if you are on a ketogenic diet, I wouldn't recommend it for more than 2 months, actually. I was on it for 8 months just for experimental purposes, and it wasn't really that good. But yeah, ketogenic is one thing to look into. Another thing you can look at is intermittent fasting, IF. That's much easier to put into practice, actually. IF, like you can have a 5 to 8 hour eating window, and the rest of the time you're fasting. And this is supposed to increase your metabolism and help you burn calories as well. Okay, so other than the diet thing, right? Just generally eating healthy and eating less processed food is always going to keep you healthier and help you lose weight.
Before you get into training, in Singapore, considering that it's very hard to find clean and healthy food, do you have any particular restaurants or food places that you can recommend?
Yo, when I was on the ketogenic diet, because it's high fat, right, I'll go crazy on like fatty food. Like it's actually pretty easy. Just go to the mixed veg rice, go to the nasi padang store, and I don't get rice. I just get all of the meat and vegetables, and then
it's okay to eat it with the gravy and all that, is it?
Or it's okay, you actually have to watch the gravy. You can't have those super sweet gravy. No, that's going to knock you straight out of ketosis. You have to watch the gravy.
Yeah, because
so like
gravies contain carbs as well.
A lot of sugar, especially like the sweet sour sauce and stuff. Just imagine the amounts of sugar they pour in there. Lots.
The idea is to go as organic as you can.
Yes,
right?
sir. Like as clean as possible. Like if you can get roasted meat, stuff like that, really
even
clean.
better.
Yep.
Going into this diet, feeling like you have no energy.
Yep.
And then, but essentially you'll grow into it. You'll adapt to it, and then, you'll be just fine.
Yes,
right?
sir. So for the first 2 weeks, right, there's this phenomenon called the keto flu. So it's a horrible process. Actually, you feel like you are in a flu-like state. You feel sick. You have very little energy.
Just because your body is not used to such a harsh eating condition.
Yeah, so the body, right, is still used to burning glycogen as its energy supply, and it has not transferred over to ketones, which is actually fat that has been broken down as its energy supply. So your body basically has no energy at the point in time. It feels like shit. And from then, once the adaptation occurs, trust me, you're going to feel like Superman. You're going to have lots of energy. You won't have that midday slump that we normally get after having a big meal during lunch, right? None of that. You feel like you're Energizer Bunny, and it's going to last for quite a long period. And you'll start to see like declines in the gains in about 2 to 3 months. So normally people who are on a ketogenic diet, they cycle on and off it.
So how long would you say that someone would have to stick to ketogenic diet?
You will see insane gains in just 1 month. In just 1 month, you're going to be ripped. You're going to have a lot of energy. But of course, it depends. If you're, depends on your starting point as well. But I would say try it for at least 1.5 months to see its full effects. And then you can decide whether you like it or not. Because the keto flu, it lasts about 2 weeks. So 1.5 months will give you like a decent time to like really grade it at its full potential.
And I hope everyone still understands that ketogenic diet is only one of the many ways that you can diet to lose weight.
Yes.
I feel
lots of
like
ways.
one important thing that people forget to take away is that they don't adjust the environment. When I'm going through a diet, the worst part is when I wake up and I look at the dinner table, and there's like shitloads of bread or like, sweet stuff that my mom prepares.
Mhm.
And to me, get unhealthy stuff as far from your reach as possible.
Yep.
That way, there's no choice. You don't have a choice.
Yep.
The idea of dieting, despite being disciplined into a diet, is the hardest part. But you have to take the first step.
Yep.
Just take things one day at a time.
Yeah, actually, there's a pretty simple way to look at it, like what foods should you eat and what foods you shouldn't eat, right? Think about it in this way, like how were we designed to live? We were designed to eat natural foods, right? That you can find in the wild. If you go over to a supermarket and you look at the shelf, and if you see anything that can't be plucked from a tree and can't be hunted in the wild, it's highly unlikely that when you were evolving as a Homo sapien, you would have been able to find it in the wild. So it's highly unlikely that it's going to be good for you. So just pick the things that are natural, easy, simple, and stick with it. And trust me, you're going to lose weight. You're going to feel better.
Too much of something is never good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even too much of water is not good for you.
Nope.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
Yeah, people think that you can just drink shitloads of water and not and it won't do harm to you, but that's not true. There was a case where there was a lady who drank like gallons and gallons and gallons of water per day, and
Thirsty.
Yeah, thirsty. Yeah, but she grew blind because it ended up swelling part of her brain that affected the nerve of her eyes and all that. The idea is to take things in moderation. If I'm working towards strength, right, building strength, and if I'm using ketogenic diet to lose fats and calories, what kind of exercises would you say complement my ketogenic diet?
Specifically for losing weight, right? You want to maintain your strength as well. I would suggest like your cardio should be really high intensity stuff. Don't do long distance stuff because you're going to lose your strength as you do it,
Basically
because
more sprints, is it?
yes, a lot of sprints. You're training your phosphogenic pathway as opposed to the glycolytic pathway. You don't want to do long distance stuff. I mean, it's really evident. You just look at the body types of runners, right? Basically, like look at the skinny ass long distance runners. They're tiny, right? I mean, yeah, they're not fat, but would you want to look like that? Would you want to look like a prisoner of war? There's no muscle mass. When you're doing so much long distance stuff, it's really hard to maintain strength and muscle mass at the same time. So I would suggest if you want to lose weight and maintain your strength, do sprints, do high intensity workouts, do full body compound movements for time. Like you can work with the kettlebell, you can work with steel clubs, stuff like that. Even bodyweight stuff done at a higher intensity as opposed to shitload of reps, a long duration of time. Keep your workout short but really intense, and you'll be good.
Do you believe that genes have a part to play in progress?
Genetics. For sure. Okay, so it depends on what kind of progress you're looking at as well. Like if you're looking at in terms of athletic development, right? There's two kind of muscle fibers that are very, very gene dependent: the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscle fibers, right? So the amount of fast twitch that you're born with, it's going to stay with you for your entire life. You're not going to increase the amount of fast twitch. I mean, sure, there's some small amount of debate in the strength and conditioning community as to whether you can increase the amount of fast twitch, but I'm quite sure that the most amount of the strength and conditioning coach, right, they agree that no, you can't increase the amount of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers that you have. However, you can make those fibers more efficient at firing. So dependent on the type of training that you're doing, right? Like if you're doing a lot of Olympic lifts, you're going to train your fast twitch muscle fibers and push it towards the higher end of the spectrum.
Essentially, you'll be more explosive.
You will be more explosive. You can train it to a certain extent, but let's say if you go against a genetic freak, like if you watch the recent UFC, right, Francis Ngannou, dude, look at that guy. He's a genetic freak.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was like a slave when he was younger, right? But look at him. He's insane, man. Imagine the amount of fast twitch muscle fibers he was born with. It's just inbuilt in him. And
unreal.
Unreal, right?
It's
not
like
much training time as well. Crazy. It's crazy.
To apply to what you are saying, if a boxer was to have a high fast twitch, it's actually the boxer will have a better explosive punch.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When it comes to genetics, it's sometimes unfortunate, When it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to abs, some people have perfectly aligned abs, and some
people have one small, tiny one in the corner.
Some people's abs like out of place, at the corner and all that. Yeah.
For
So
for those people, right, I just gotta say, make do with what you got. If you have a lot of slow twitch, right, it's okay. You can be a slow twitch athlete. You know, you can develop your skill set to
or to complement
match.
the slow twitch, you know, that you don't have to be an explosive fighter.
Exactly.
You
You
know,
can be endurance like Nate Diaz. You know,
Yeah.
you can just
Yeah.
never die. You know.
Yeah, there are ways to, you know, complement your weakness or your strengths or what. Basically, just work with what you have.
Yes, sir.
You know, just appreciate that you even have twitches.
Yes.
You know, some people are not
yes.
even born with twitches. You know, some
Yep.
people born without being able to move their limbs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you're not exercising, what do you do for a living?
But I'm actually a pretty boring person, man. I just I do BJJ and then I read up about exercising, I guess, and then like I hang out with my friends.
Okay.
Maybe I go trekking once in a while.
Are
that
you
kind of stuff.
a MMA fan?
I'm a big MMA fan, man. I've been watching it.
Who's
for a
your
long time.
favorite MMA fighter?
Right now, I would say like GSP is one of the greats for me. Dominic Cruz, I love his footwork. Always loved his footwork.
What about Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, that guy's a freak, guys.
Yeah.
He's a white gorilla. Look at him, man.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to look at him fight? Come on.
And it's not the fact that he's just built huge. He's huge and he moves like a cat.
Yeah, powerful.
Yeah, he's agile and he's big. That's the two combination that is, you know, the training that comes with it, you know, is
Because
probably
like
unreal.
mostly if you were to think of like a guy with big muscles like a bodybuilder, you wouldn't think
mobility
he's
is not there.
Yeah, you wouldn't think he's fast like Brock Lesnar, but Brock has everything, man. He's so
he has
fast.
speed, he has power, he has agility, he has
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
Why are you drawn towards combat sports?
For me, it's like martial arts as a whole, right? I feel it like it's a representation of the person fighting. You know, I can know a lot about the person by just watching them fight. Like I can look at the tenacity of like a wrestler, you know, in Khabib Nurmagomedov, you can just see like the painful upbringing that he's been through, the grind that he has in the octagon. He never gives up. He's always there in your face, punching you in the face, taking you to the ground. Or I look at someone like Dominic Cruz and his fancy footwork. You know, like you can just tell there's something about him. He's a slick dude. When you talk to him, he's slick as well. Like it's just like the way people express themselves through the fighting style, right? That's what I love the most. And there's the variances in the fighting styles.
Do you agree that UFC is somewhat drawing a bit of influence from like WWE wrestling?
For sure, right?
Because
For sure.
you know, ever since Conor McGregor, you know,
It's the time for the money fights now.
He's the way he does promos, and you know, his character is like a heel in when it comes to wrestling. You know, so I feel like, you know, they sort of compliment here and there, and just so everyone is aware, Ronda Rousey is gonna
She's in
sign.
WWE
He's
now,
gonna
right?
sign to be a wrestler in WWE. Yeah, which, you know,
That's what I heard. I think like I heard a story about how Dana White apparently was looking up to Vince McMahon and like the empire that he built, you know, like so you can see that the resemblances. Like right now it's going towards the money fight. It's not so much about the sport, right?
why don't you yourself train to be a fighter?
Yeah, this is another long story. So when I was in the army, right, I had an injury involving a skull fracture. Basically, like busted my head in. It's nothing even like super dramatic or cool, like a training accident. It was just me cycling back home from camp while I was on course, and then I got into like a accident on the road. So I had a skull fracture, and so I can't take strikes to the head. So I stick with rolling around on the mat with people. You know, I just like the
Okay.
grappling game.
All right, where do you usually train anyway?
I train at Highlight Reel MMA.
Okay.
Yep.
Getting back as we ride to the sunset with the podcast, what do you think is the biggest misconceptions when it comes to training and working out?
Okay. The biggest misconception would be if you are sweating a lot, you are moving towards your goals. I don't think that's true, you know. That's just you excreting your bodily fluids. That doesn't mean much, you know. Like I think
you're just losing water.
you're
right?
just losing water, you know. Like I think you should have a scientific approach as to what you want to do and gradually work towards it with a plan.
If you're working to build strength or build muscles, you know, and if you are sweating, you could be losing your gains.
Yeah,
you know?
just hammering yourself is not going to work
so
every
it's-
single
it
time.
might be actually be counterproductive rather than productive. Everyone lives in different bubble, right? In Singapore, there are casual people who are not, you know, in the bubble of fitness. For you, you've been around fitness your whole life, probably majority of your whole life, right? So do you agree that everyone should be in fitness in one way, shape or form?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Homo sapiens were designed to do, no? We're designed to move, we're designed to run, we're designed to like swim, hunt, climb. So I guess we have to do it. If we don't do it, what's going to happen? You are not going to have the ranges that you were designed to have. and you're going to be really depressed. So do what your body was designed to do. Go out there, move. Go out there, enjoy, have fun.
And to me, overall, it's good for aging, you know.
Yeah.
My granddad, he wasn't necessarily an athlete or a sports person, but he used to run a lot. He's walking around at 70 years old like he's 30, you know.
Still alright, right?
He's
Still doing
still
fine.
alright. Yeah, he's
Mhm.
70 years old and it's mind-boggling how fit he is. Yeah.
You
because-
don't use it, you'll lose it,
Yeah.
my friends.
Exactly. So to me, fitness is an investment,
Mm.
right? You wanna, the fitter you are, the more productive you can be.
Exactly. Look at the things that are plaguing our society right now: obesity, hypertension, diabetes. All these things can be rectified with consistent exercise, like walking, working out, stuff like that. Good diet.
What is your advice for people right now as they are listening to this podcast? They've never, I don't know, if they've never exercised their entire life.
Right.
What would your advice be to them?
Like you said, right, bro? The main thing is to get the ball rolling slowly. So you have a couple of solid goals you have in mind. Maybe your goal is like to lose weight, or you have a few movement goals that you want to do. Let's say you want to get your first pull up, your first muscle up, your first pistol squat. Understand what you want, after which have a plan and start off small. You have to start off small. If you take huge steps initially, right, you may fail the first few times and get unmotivated.
Or you
Take
can
it
get
slow.
injured worse.
Exactly. Take it slow. Take your time. Once the ball gets rolling, it gets easier and easier. And then you just have to keep the momentum going. And boom, you're there. Before you know it, you're addicted. Before you know it, you're doing it every day.
And the more you do it, you love it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I hope people who are listening, they train safely and they train efficiently and effectively.
Get on it, you savages. Get on it.
Get on it. Okay, thank you, Jaratt.
Thank you, bro.